Hey, how's it going, fight fans? Welcome to Mindful Combat. If you're new to the channel, my name's Rohan, and this is my platform where I do fight sports related content. So if you're new here, why don't you help me grow this platform? All you have to do is subscribe to the channel, like the video if you like it, and maybe hit that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload a video. With that said, in this video, I'll be breaking down the long-awaited UFC debut of former three-time Bellator lightweight world champion Michael Chandler as he takes on top contender Dan Hooker in the co-main event of UFC 257. This is a very, very important fight for both of these men in their careers, and for Michael Chandler is especially important given the fact that after all the hype, after all the noise, after everything, he's finally in the UFC and he needs to validate his position as a top tier lightweight. Now, it's a bit unfortunate that he joins UFC at 34 years old after, his best years are arguably behind him. I certainly would make that argument, but Michael Chandler is still a top tier talent, and actually we still have a very, very good fighter in Michael Chandler, and a guy that may still very well be a top contender and even a UFC lightweight world championship caliber fighter. He takes on Dan Hooker, who's just coming off a brutal fight with Dustin Poirier, and that's kind of the staple in Dan Hooker's career. He loves to have these brutal fights. Of course, he had another one with Edson Barboza, with Paul Felder. He has these wars, but he's very dangerous. He's a very gnarly, nasty striker. Technically sound on the feet. He trains with Israel Adesanya. He had an extensive career as a kickboxer. And he's a guy that really shines in all areas of the game, to be honest, but stands out to me as a striker. And this should be a really fun fight. And no doubt the winner of this will probably be just a win or two away from a title shot if they after this fight. So it's very important. Without further ado, let's get into this. Dan Hooker is 30 years old. That makes him 4 years younger than Mike Chandler. Now, Dan Hooker has shown no signs of slowing down. He actually looks to be improving with each fight. Even in his loss to Dustin Poirier, he showed me a lot. He's in his physical prime. Michael Chandler, conversely, is 34 years old. Now, that's not that much older, but when you look at Michael Chandler's performances, yes, he looked good against Benson Henderson, but when you look at his fight against Patricio or Pitbull, against Brent Primus, even the rematch, he's shown me signs of a fighter that's starting to wear thin, and that's not necessarily indicative that he is coming to an end. He may be having a career resurgence. He may have lost motivation because he was already a multiple-time Bellator world champion. What was he fighting in Bellator for at that point? He had done everything there was to be done in Bellator. So now maybe with the new setting, with the new goal, with the new challenges ahead of him, he's re-motivated, re-energized, and we're going to see the best Michael Chandler. But it bears witnessing. Dan Hooker comes into this fight with a professional record of 20 wins and 9 losses. Michael Chandler is 21-5. Both of these guys have experienced main event spotlights, sold out arenas, pay-per-views, everything. They've both been there. Experience will not be a factor. Dan Hooker stands at 6 foot tall, which makes him a fair bit taller than the 5'8" Michael Chandler. I believe that makes him 4 inches taller than Michael Chandler, and considering that he's a very, very good striker and I would give him the advantage on the feet, that's going to be very, very important to note. He will also enjoy a 4-inch reach advantage over Michael Chandler's 71-inch reach with a 75-inch reach himself, and that's very important to come into this fight when you consider, as I mentioned, he's probably the better striker. To describe their styles, Dan Hooker is a striker. He's a very devastating striker. He carries power in his hands, his knees. Just look at his knockouts off Gilbert Burns, Ross Pearson, Jim Miller, all these top guys that he's just flatlined, completely flatlined. Even James Wick. I mean, James Wick's kind of chinny, but those are big, big wins for a guy that like Dan Hooker to have on his resume. And when you look at the way he fights, I think his stand-up that stands out. For Michael Chandler, he's a very explosive, dynamic wrestler. He's got great wrestling, he's got great grappling, but he's also got good stand-up and he carries big power. I believe that explosiveness that he carries as a wrestler translates well to him being a striker as well. He explodes into those big overhand rights, and he's a very dangerous fighter that can do really anything in the cage. And I think where he stands out, however, is going to be his wrestling, and I think that's going to be the difference maker in this fight. The key wins for Dan Hooker, well, he's got tons of key wins. I mentioned a few already, but he's beaten the likes of Ross Pearson, Jim Miller, Gilbert Burns, Paul Felder. Those are all great wins that he's beaten, and they're very important coming into this fight, especially when you consider stylistically what some of those guys had in comparison to Michael Chandler. For example, Gilbert Burns, I think he has similar tools. I'm not saying they're similar in skill sets, but he has similar tools as Michael Chandler. Obviously, he's winner over Alan Quinter as well. Let me not forget that. For Michael Chandler, he's got a great resume as well. Actually, despite the fact that he's been fighting in Bellator, you could almost argue that he's got the better resume of the two. He's beaten Eddie Alvarez, which is a huge and important win. He's beaten Benson Henson not once but twice. That's a huge win. He's beaten Patricky Pereira, the older Pitbull brother, twice. He's beaten Brent Primus to win back his belt. Gyoti Yamauchi, Dave Rickles. These are all good top tier, top flight talent. Particularly the latter, although they may not have the name recognition, I respect them a hell of a lot as fighters. Those are good fighters. The issues coming into this fight for Dan Hooker is going to be, well, firstly, he's just coming off a war with Dustin Poirier. He's obviously a very hittable fighter, and I think Michael Chandler hits very hard. So if he leaves himself open, he could find himself in a lot of trouble against Michael Chandler. And for Michael Chandler, it's going to be age, wear and tear are his biggest issues, in my opinion. The X factor for Dan Hooker is going to be his size and his length, his ability to just, manage the distance, and on the feet he's the superior, more technical striker, so his stand-up as well is going to be his X factor for him. And for Michael Chandler, it's going to be his wrestling and his explosiveness. That's going to be his 2 X factors. Let's get into the prediction. This is a very interesting fight because Michael Chandler may come out there wanting to demonstrate to the world that he can strike with one of the best strikers, put on a show and get a huge knockout. But what's important to note is that coming into this fight, Michael Chandler has had interviews where he said he wants to see how Dan Hooker does on his back, and that seems like a guy that he would want to take down and hold down. Now that's a good game plan for him to adopt in this fight, given the size disadvantage that he's going to be at, being at the technical disadvantages in terms of his Muay Thai. That is something that he should most certainly attempt to do. Find out how good his opponent is off his back, and he should try to keep him there. Now, Dan Hooker is very dangerous off his back too, but on his feet is where he's going to shine. And the question then becomes, can he take Dan Hooker down? Right, so one thing I know about Michael Chandler, and if you follow him on social media, you can tell he's a beast and his conditioning is supreme, is that he's going to not tire. I reckon Dan Hooker's going to be able to defend 1 or 2 or 3 or even 5 takedowns. But as Michael Chandler doesn't relent on the takedowns, especially if that's his game plan, I reckon he'll be able to start getting him down later in the first and second rounds, and then he's going to be able to do a lot of damage there and ride it out to a unanimous decision. The question then becomes is he able to take him down before Dan Hooker's able to put him out on the feet? I don't actually know, but I have to consider that he will be able to. So guys, for my official prediction, I'm going to anticipate that Michael Chandler's going to come out there able to take Dan Hooker down eventually, and when he's taking him down, he's able to do damage to him on the ground and be able to get the win. Now, there's a lot of question marks around this because Dan Hooker is very dangerous. Michael Chandler could be seen as being chinny, and mentally sometimes he's not there, although coming into this fight he has every reason to be engaged, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But still, Dan Hooker is very, very dangerous, and this, much like the main event, is a 50-50 fight where either scenario is just as likely. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to give you guys a prediction because I always put myself out there. I'm going with Michael Chandler to get the win. Anyways guys, that's my prediction. Love to know how you see this fight going. Love to know what you guys are picking to happen in this fight. Let me know if you guys enjoyed the breakdown. Let me know if you guys are looking forward to seeing Michael Chandler fight in the UFC, and who are some other Bellator fighters that you would love to see fighting in the UFC. Anyways guys, remember to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Thank you for watching. I'm Rohan, and this is Mind for Combat.